I just didn't see it. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the February 10th, 2025 meeting of the Riverfront Advisory Committee. We'll start with an invitation for a public forum if there's anyone who would like to make comment. No one would like to make a comment. We'll move on with the agenda. First item, acceptance of minutes from the previous meeting, January 13th, 2025. Anyone have any comments, questions on the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 13th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks again, Joe. Thought they were good.
Will they be on the website, the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah.
I didn't see them there just a little while ago.
Yeah, well, they should.
Yeah. They typically, after we would vote to approve them, then they get uploaded sometime soon afterwards.
I will make a better effort to get them out in the legal time frame that they're supposed to be produced.
I appreciate you even taking it on as it is, so thank you. Okay, primary agenda item today is discussion of the draft master plan chapter that's been developed for the downtown riverfront. So Liz Durfee, author of said chapter, is here today. Frankly, at this time, we turn it over for a working discussion to you and Bart, however you'd like to support as well.
Good afternoon, Barbara Tennant, Planning Director. Yes, so in front of you is the first draft of the Riverfront chapter. Basically these, the narrative and recommendations come through the multi-month process. So it's kind of the beginning of the culmination of that. And I guess what we want to do this evening, just maybe just go through each section of it, and if there's any comments, we can just start those discussions then. So you're the best approach at this point. So without further ado, I guess you guys would be more productive if we went through the themes first and circle back to the vision, or do you want to start with the vision first?
Let's get started.
Okay.
For reminders' sake, and I feel like I should definitely doubly know this, kind of also being involved with the master plan subcommittee stuff. What is the actual schedule for, I guess, finalization of this chapter?
So I guess I'll discuss with Liz, but I would say by next month we had everything finalized to get to the subcommittee. That's what.
Yeah, I'm going to the subcommittee meeting on the 12th, I believe,
Okay.
March 12th,
To discuss it.
to discuss it.
Okay.
Carrie mentioned slides, so like maybe a high-level overview, but
Yeah.
I'll be giving the draft to
Good.
them as well.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is they'll have a look at the draft, but next month you make your final recommendations. So you have a month to digest it, and then make some some tweaks to it if need be, and then that would get sent up to the subcommittee as well as they review it, and then eventually to the planning board. So that's kind of the schedule right now.
Okay, so realistically, any input that this committee is going to provide is basically in the next calendar month, and then come the 12th. Okay, so we would want to try to meet before the 12th.
Which if we do the second Tuesday of the month, it's March 10th.
So, not to skip to the next meeting item, but I'm not going to be in town on the 10th.
I won't either.
guess I would lobby. The question was going to be, do we do the 3rd or the 17th? I guess
If you're going to be here at 11 to vote, you have to be here to vote.
I will
To get an
be here
absentee.
the 11th.
I just requested mine.
The 3rd is fine with me.
I won't be here on the 3rd, but
Okay.
Neither will I.
Oh,
All right.
So we
I
say
think
March 3rd is the next meeting?
If we can't get a uniform recommendation,
Yeah.
I think individual recommendations or thoughts, and then that can get to the subcommittee,
Okay.
just so, keep on the timeline.
Yeah, we can table setting the actual next meeting for later to be respectful of people's
I mean,
time, but.
I think you should still discuss it at the
Yeah.
next meeting, it's just to facilitate the process. Kind of collect your thoughts individually, then send it to the subcommittee.
No, thanks for the sidebar, just wanted to make sure we understood the timeline, but if all five of us may not be here either of those dates, then just figure out what's best.
Okay, so would you think the best approach is to read it on your own, or want me to read the vision and then discuss?
Has everyone already had a chance to read it on their own
Okay.
and make
Yeah.
notes as to what they want to bring out?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I read it.
I
kind
read
of in
it.
depth, So,
I didn't make notes because my printer wasn't working.
Oh, okay.
I did a high-level read. I'm comfortable going through the sections and not reading.
I have something, maybe we want to dive in, it's kind of like, applies to all the sections, I think, or a lot of them. I know we've gone over the goals many times, but when you read this and then you look at the goals are very nebulous or very general. Do we, as a group, want to, like, take a look at the goals again and try to make them a little bit more specific? I think, like, a good one is like connectivity. Is it okay if we dive into that, or?
if it's
Yeah.
an overarching comment, I think we can start with that.
I guess my question is, it's labeled themes and goals, so maybe that's why it's the way it is that it's themes as well as goals, so that it's not intended to be as,
That's what I'm
Specific.
asking, do we want to?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I would read that.
Say, these are very general, do we want to make them a little bit more specific, or there's an advantage of keeping them general in that it,
Yeah.
gives you a greater leeway to.
So the idea is to keep, these are like the main goals,
Mhm.
at least in each general. And then what we can do later on in the implementation, we have a sub-goal under those main, so they're more specific. So there's more specificity.
And we.
They're not in here yet.
Oh, okay.
So it's something we'd be working on. So for instance, enhance the connectivity of Main Street, Commerce, and Lakeview River. Then under that overarching goal, you can have more task-related,
That-
and who's responsible for that.
Okay, that, I mean, that's a good compromise.
That was in a separate document, did that make it out? Well, we have, if we get to it today, we have some preliminary, sub-goals, which do definitely still could use some reworking, they're not at all final, but they're more specific.
Yeah,
So-
then that, okay, that's.
So I think maybe what we do in the next meeting, apologize, I didn't send that out, might have missed that. That might be a good next meeting thing to review.
Sure.
As well. So, right now, we get the general main objectives, and then we can, fine tune it to the sub-goals next meeting. All right, so go back to vision. Any comments on the vision?
Ed, I actually thought I read it pretty well.
Yeah, agreed.
Moving on to the executive summary.
I think like minor comments or like very small things, I think would just skip over to maximize time today. I have a few things that, Liz, I can like just give you the draft on that.
Yeah.
Direct, we'll stick to more higher level comments, but in the executive summary, kind of on page 30 at the top, where it talks about, key challenges and opportunities in the downtown riverfronts navigating the patchwork of public and private property. Excellent. I actually really even like how the sentence is written as, both a challenge and an opportunity, because it is both. I know we come back to this point later, but I thought even in the executive summary, if this is the only thing that people are reading to give an introduction to the chapter, is there appropriate to put an action item, or that there's already something being considered here? Because it feels like it establishes that this is a thing or a point of discussion or investigation, but then it just kind of stops. Like, are we really trying to keep any sort of action item or active partaking that the town is doing out of the executive summary, or can we put that, this is something that the town is examining and advancing this initiative and is talked about further in the chapter?
Let me just read the whole paragraph for context. I don't think you have to say towns are inconsistent. I mean, I guess my question is, what value does that add?
Yeah, maybe none in the executive summary.
Because I think it's, for me, it's like, the town, when you say one of the key challenges, that means towns aren't thinking about it. It's a challenge, or in opportunities.
I think that's
So
fair.
I think it's implied.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
there's also a section further on that indicates that they're, looking at easements to gain access to the riverfront behind Rivermore Landing.
Where, and which in the connectivity section, or in the?
I think it's in connectivity.
Right.
So,
And there is a mention of the legal review too, so.
exactly.
Okay. So yeah, I guess
So-
maybe it's covered elsewhere.
Yeah, to me, that says, it's already a thought. Town's already engaged in the process.
We can also check with, we can also check in with the other chapter authors, just to make sure that they're kind of following a consistent path as well. I've only seen the housing chapter intro so far, but we can see what everyone else is doing too.
Kind of a, that's list every time.
Sorry.
Sorry. On Wednesday, I'm gonna meet with the whole staff at SRPC to talk about narrative and voice. So there's consistency. That's gonna be one of the key topics, just so that we're speaking with one voice. Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
people writing.
So,
So I
and
wanna
this-
make sure that there's consistency.
Maybe it's just my hang up about calling it like an executive summary. If the point of this section is a high level introduction to the core of what's discussed in the chapter, then I don't think there's any comment. Like, an executive summary to me is not only summarizing the issues, but also, I guess, putting like an active, like a takeaway, like what happened from it, or what was the primary takeaway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe that's just where I'm getting hung up on it, is more just in terminology of it. Because I think it is consistent with all the language around it. But an executive summary, I feel like
Yeah, no.
has the outcome too.
Yeah, why don't we look back after we have like consensus on the chapter and the sub-recommendations, and then if there are certain items that you all feel sort of more strongly about, we'll make sure that those are kind of highlighted in the executive summary, if we want to have that kind of like findings, takeaway piece.
Yeah, and that may be more of a what every chapter is doing than this one. I think this is just the first one.
So
First one
my
in depth.
understanding you right is the hang-up is the title.
I think so. Maybe that's just it. Because I feel like the executive summary has
Maybe we
the
call it
summary, the action
context,
item,
or,
what happened from
yeah.
it.
So I think we can play around with that and come up with something that will make you more at ease.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't convinced until you brought out about executive summary, and I agree with you on that. I think the content is good, but I get what you're saying about
Yeah.
executive summary.
If I was reading this at work, I would write back to Reddit, well, what happened? And so, again, maybe it's just the terminology thing.
No, I definitely see where you're coming from. Great, any other questions on formerly known as executive summary?
Okay. I just said that, by the way.
Maybe that's what we'll call it, formerly. Moving on to master plan and goals. This is just kind of a general overview of, how we're structuring each chapter. Any questions on this page? Section. Okay. See them moving forward to vibrancy, the first thing. Yes, we'll just go page by page to page 8. Any comments? Moving on to page.
Oh, quick question. So the reference on page 8 in blue, how you currently use the downtown riverfront area and all that applies, is that just, because I know that there's charts in the back to the summary, so.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the things that's gonna get ironed out a tiny bit in the meeting tomorrow. Right now, the way that this is structured is that there's a hyperlink instead of a reference to the table or the figure in the appendix, but instead of labeling the figure, it's the text of the figure.
Yeah.
So if you click on that, it would take you to the appendix. And so that might change a little bit, how those are referenced. But it's supposed to reference like additional material in the appendix.
Yeah, so I think where you see how do you currently use, what we do is maybe highlight most popular activities in the riverfront. That'd be hyperlinked. You can click on that or hover over it, and then,
Oh, instead of the
Yeah,
reference?
exactly.
Okay.
yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Sort of like, it's like an alternative end note almost. You get right to the appendix, but
So this specific section of the appendix.
I think that's effective. It's like when you read news articles and they like,
yeah.
but then you don't have to like go find the right one, you just go right to
And
it.
I think the intent is that most people will be reading the more interactive online version of the document, so it might be set up a little bit differently.
Exactly, so what we would do for the PDF, traditional PDF would footnote it. I think maybe somehow make a reference to an appendix.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say, because there's gotta be a printed version as well, so I would,
So it's gonna be a slightly different format. than the
okay,
printed version.
okay. So reference will be made to the appendix at the back.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even if it just said appendix and then had that text, it would be
Yeah.
a little easier to find, so.
Right, like a specific point. Yeah, so that's something where we have control for and are aware of. We'll accommodate. Hearing nothing else, page 9.
The only comment I had on this one was where it's talking about the parking spaces for Shanda Park. I was feeling like, so that's accurate, but I'm wondering if this is where we can already start kind of couching that, like despite the fact that that space exists, like they're often used and taken up already. Like there's spaces there, but they're rarely, I guess, fully accessible to the general public.
Well, one on 4 of our boats. Do you incorporate, Liz, the boat ones too, in that 14? Do you know? Fourth third paragraph?
I think it's separate. There's another spot it gets mentioned later on where the vote ones are mentioned separately.
I think it's in the access.
Gotcha.
So like, it's accurate, but as we start kind of discussing like existing conditions, pros and cons, like those spaces exist, but they're rarely actually available. I mean, even in the drone shot you have right above it, they're all full. And there's no one standing in Shanda Park for the people operating the drone. Exactly.
Any other comments on page 9? You're done. Page 10.
I just had a comment where we start, I think this is the first reference to Dam Park, and it is mentioned further on, but if this is where we can first establish that, that's a state fish and game property. It's mentioned as a state property further on, but just with this being, I think, the first time it kind of gets mentioned, establishing that here.
You're talking about the downtown boat landing as fishing game property, or?
Where the fish,
The,
ladder is.
yeah, fish ladder one.
Oh, okay.
That little green space there. Access space.
The dam park.
The dam park. I think the fish is a Leo Landing, not Leo, Alien Park?
Yeah.
I think that's the. Anyways, yes. Moving on to 11. Page 11.
So one question I have here is, the idea garnered from the master plan survey was to paint a mural on the Rivermore Landing, Rivermore's parking structure. I looked at the presentation, I didn't see any mention of it there. And I don't see where a mural can be painted on that structure. So,
I wonder, I have to look at that, but I wonder if it's not Rivermore Landing structure, but it's Chimbird's Mill. You know how you go downtown above the bandstand, there's that huge expanse wall? I think that's it,
I think it was the public input,
yeah?
so it might not be verbatim in the presentation.
Yeah.
But I can double check where that was. I think it does say Rivermore, like, parking structure.
yeah, but if you look at the structure, there's really no place that's visible from Main Street, nor is it constructed out of anything that could be painted upon. So where the
Right.
arbors were, that's all concrete block. On both down Penstock and then up our granite steps up to the upper lot. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
Strike it.
yeah.
Either strike or go back to the comment, because I had actually wondered that too, of like, what structure is it even talking about?
Is it even a full, I can't picture in my mind's eye, but next to the dumpsters, that area, is that like all wall or is there an opening?
Oh,
there?
it's all open.
It's
Yeah.
open.
Yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, so that's, but I know I've heard rumors of a mural going up on the Chimberg building
Right,
that is adjacent to the Rivermore building.
right. I
So,
think people that just amused, nothing anything serious,
Yeah,
but I think
yeah.
that's where people would imagine it going.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's why it may not be a complete strike, because like, I still think there's value to a comment like that. It's just what structure
Yeah.
is that clear?
Yep.
Or maybe just to, to add additional murals to the downtown area.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we can probably rewrite that.
Mhm.
Reflect that.
The only other comment I had on this page was if we could add, we're talking about signage, public art, a tie into like historical signage, only because like someone did specifically kind of reach out, we can talk about this a little bit later, about potentially putting some historical signage in Shanda Park about the shipbuilding operations that used to happen on the riverfront.
Okay, moving on from 11 to 12. I think Ryan Rock was constructing 2000. That's my comment. I think Rivermore was in the 80s, Ryan Rock 2000, and then, or 2001, and then Mills, Newmarket Mills, 2012, I think it was finished. There's also one more, the select board building. That was recent.
2022
years ago.
or 2023?
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, did you say those dates dates again?
Yeah,
One of them Bryant Rock, I think I read that it was.
I think they finished like 2000, 2001.
You talk, because Bryant Rock's got the historic part of it, and then it had,
Oh, that-
the new part that's directly below, you know, the first building below the dam on your left wasn't that pretty much new construction at that time, or? Anybody know?
So the granite one was original, and then I
Right.
think the brick, like townhouses that are right as you go over the dam on the left, there were structures there, but I think they were reconstructed.
Yeah.
And then they have the townhouses that are up further towards the Select Wood apartments.
Mhm.
And I think those were also originally there, but I'm not sure their timeline for development, so.
Was, I think,
I can dig into that a little bit too.
You could probably just pull up an address on the
Yeah.
town website, get information. I know Rivermore was the late 1980s, it was like 88, so.
when you just say 80s through 2000.
mm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Get right at it.
Yeah. The last 40 years.
Yeah. Moving on to 13.
So again, I just have a comment about, among the other uses in the riverfront area, it says the Rivermore Landing Parking Garage and Parking Lot. I just hope that the public doesn't read that and misconstrue it as parking for them. That's private parking, so it's in the second paragraph, midway down.
I wonder, would it be more accurate to say Rivermore Condominium Associations,
Or
on
just-
street, yes, parking garage?
Or just private parking,
Yeah,
Rivermore Landing Private Parking Garage and Parking Lot, private lot.
so, yeah, Rivermore Landings, private parking garage.
And towards the bottom of the second paragraph, this is kind of a pedantic comment, but the water treatment plant doesn't occupy waterfront space. It's only wastewater operations down there.
The parcel thing at all?
No, it's wastewater, water treatment, so
Yeah.
it's just wastewater treatment.
It says town's wastewater treatment plant
Yeah.
and water treatment plant. But it's just wastewater
Okay.
treatment.
And I think T5, we're gonna call it Village Corridor. I think that's the working name. So that's recent. At the bottom.
Village,
Village Corridor?
No, just put that one on. Could be revised again, so.
It's T5 zone.
13 to 14? Not hearing anything. 14 to 15.
can we just go back to 14?
Yes.
Again, another section, leveraging natural resources such as riverfront and trails. Can we just do the public riverfront?
Yes. First paragraph.
It's about, first paragraph about halfway down.
Okay.
Between the two photos.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Or public riverfront walk and trails.
Publicly accessible.
Publicly accessible means public can access it.
Well, no.
Yeah.
We'll find the language where it
Yeah.
represents what you're.
Are you talking about the area where the sign Riverwalk is now? From the landing, as you walk there, there's a sign that says Riverwalk there now.
But just denoting where the public area ends.
I wasn't specifically referencing the river walk there, but we certainly could.
Or, well, I know you're looking at the whole riverfront area, but
general waterfront
Mhm.
space, but we could specifically highlight areas. Sorry. We could specifically highlight, I don't know, like Shanda Park or some
Yeah,
other.
I think it's just important to note that there's a lot of private ownership down there, and we want
Right.
to make sure that those property rights, as noted at the very beginning, are respected.
Yeah,
And a lot of times people confuse the riverfront as being everything along the river, and that's not the case.
definitely, yeah, okay.
You comment on the overarching goals? Or anything you want to add?
No, and maybe this is in the sub-goals document, but are the sub-goals where it's a little bit more specific on the actual implementation, or is the goal of the implementation chapter to be how the town acts on individual chapter recommendations, or both?
Oh, so it'd be, you have these goals, and then how do we achieve this overarching?
Yeah.
Would be those like actionable items.
Okay.
So, for instance,
So, I'll just give you an example of some of the sub-goals under vibrancy right now that
Yeah.
aren't in that document, because they're gonna be in a separate spreadsheet, I think. So, these are in a spreadsheet, and then there'll be another table that has who's responsible for that, and what's the priority or time frame, that sort of thing. That hasn't been developed yet. So what I had for vibrancy: install more signs about the mills and their history on the riverfront, create educational signage for the weir, and install it in a visible location in Shanda Park. Work with weir tender, recreation department, and schools to develop an educational program about the weir, host fundraising events for improvements to downtown riverfront at Shanda Park. Partner with schools, volunteer groups, corporations to host cleanup days in the downtown riverfront. Consider ways to incorporate the natural history into the redesign of Shanda Park, such as by creating climbable structure modeled after the weir or native species, like a lamprey eel. Develop educational signage about types of species that inhabit the riverfront, including ducks, and how to minimize impacts on these species. And then there's a host of other kind of specific items under the other themes also. And again, that's just a first stab at.
this is our subset. Just kind of build off this conversation, is this was going to look like eventually the interface. So each chapter will have its own box, and then at the end there'll be an implementation one, and then that's where you're gonna have that spreadsheet. So it's you can't go there right now, but I can show you what housing chapter looks like, and kind of give you an idea. So then you go to each one, you want to click accessibility, and jumps right there. And then see if there's any link. I don't think we have any hyperlink right now, but again, just a nice succinct way to communicate what the town wants to do, what it envisions, in a really digestible way. And then if you want to get into the real specifics, you can jump to the appendices. It's on the website. If you go to the planning department or planning board website, you can find this. It's uploaded, so. Okay.
I'll just add, some of the things that she just said are actually worded within the section itself, right? Some of the things you mentioned, they're already in.
Not like, hopefully not exactly the same wording, but the concept should be in there, yeah.
On the 16th? Page 17, map. Any comments on the map?
Maybe just adding a label for the, like the Heron Point overlook. You got the dot for point of interest, but it looks like the only one that's not labeled.
So, while we're here, the design chart report should be out soon, so I'm just reviewing it right now. And you should have that within the next week or this week or next week.
Claire, do you mind if I jump in for a
Yeah,
second
sure.
here?
Yeah.
So, we've talked about a lot of connectivity related areas, and I kind of focused on 4 different areas and labeled them A, B, C, and D right here. I'm not sure how, I didn't see a lot of subheadings in the housing chapter, so I didn't really use many subheadings in this chapter, but I did in this particular section. They may go away, but for the purposes of our conversation, I'm curious about, I'd like your input on whether these 4 areas are sort of the areas that you would like to see represented in here, or if there are other areas that you would like to kind of highlight as sort of 4 areas to focus on connectivity.
Does B include the stuff behind the water treatment plant, or is that really more towards just the, Shanda Park itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the discussion does a little bit, the discussion does mention the, like Pender's Lane, Class 6 road there. I don't have any, I know there's like an informal trail network in there. I didn't include any map of that, but it does kind of reference that whole area.
It does, but it's more towards Shanda Park, right? To me, that area behind the water treatment plant offers the best opportunity, I think, for expansion and simple access and growth.
So would you like to see that a separate label or expanded discussion, maybe?
I would like to, I would personally like to see, make that a D or something, and then, maybe talk about how many acres that is, and what's there now, and what the potential is.
It's worth noting in some way. I mean, at one point, we had a conversation in here, and brought Ellen into the Conservation Commission. We walked it into talking about, it's town land. It would take very little to just improve the trail marking, just to, acknowledge the signage, and all of those trails are accessible from town roads. There's really no right of way that prevents them. People can walk there now. And I don't think anybody was envisioning a big, trying to make parking for it or some big expansion. It's more of a connectivity thing. When we had that conversation, you can, it gives you a walk through the woods that gets you over to the state, the ice fishing landing down below, the town offices, and, the town public works area. There are trails that exist now that are used, and it would, I don't know that we need, I think it would be nice to have the roads marked better, the trails marked better. And if there's some places where they're kind of, in some cases, I think the trails end up, people aren't sure where they are, so you have about 4 different trails running parallel. So I think it's nice to just improve that trail system, but that's almost like a few field days and it's done.
That could be volunteered pretty easily.
And continuing.
Can I just speak to the trails in there, because I would work inside.
I could see you perking up
Go there all
back
the time.
there. Yeah.
Yes, the
And I've been there almost 40 years now, too, so.
Yeah,
It's the people that live around there.
Your name and equipment.
Excuse me?
State your name, please.
Susan Sullivan, sorry. I live on Creighton Street.
Creighton, yeah.
Yep. So, the people that live around there are the ones that have maintained, including myself, are the ones that have maintained trails. And they change because there's all these trees falling down. There's a lot of damage in there now, all those ash trees that were coming down everywhere from the beetle there. So they change. There's no like formal trails or anything to mark, I don't think. I make my own way through and follow some, go sometimes where they are, and other times I'll clear some more wood and that's the way it's been for years and years. There aren't any formal trails. The only one is Pinder's lane there that's a wide.
They look like trails when you walk on them.
Yeah. We've walked them.
And I don't think the fact that it hasn't been marked before prevents it from being marked in the future.
Oh, no, I just wanted to clarify that
Okay.
there's no formal system of trails in there.
Right.
To put signage up in there.
I think we're aligned from your previous comments that we're not seeing this as an area that's going to change dramatically.
Right.
If we had clearer trails for people that are walking through for the first time,
Yeah.
and either blazing or a few signs or something that said, here is the way we suggest you go, and clean out the trees if they fall in those trails.
Well, that's what it really needs. There's no town maintenance of that area at all right now. At least none that I've ever seen.
I mean, that area could be
That's why I was
something
just trying
that,
to
we
clarify.
could trade maintenance of Shanda Park to the town and take maintenance of that trail system to the Conservation Commission, maybe, something like that, because that's exactly what they do, is maintain
Yes.
trails like that.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to clarify, because it sounded like it was more of a formal thing, and it's not at all.
No, and
It
I
was-
think that's both a valid point and kind of underscores the opportunity of like, it probably wouldn't take a lot of work to establish it as something a little bit more intentional and provide like maintenance, so it's not just,
Yeah.
residents who care and use it are primarily responsible.
Right, and there's an opportunity to give it a name.
Yeah.
Maybe you have an idea, but you could call it something, and people would.
Yeah,
I
Sullivan.
kind of like it peaceful and quiet in there.
Also, getting down with this map, there's, I see, some locations of vantage points. Do we have concerns about some of that being on private property?
In what I call section D, is that what?
Well, on page 17 on the map.
Yeah.
So I see that the map is titled Downtown Riverfront Vantage Points, but and I see, A, B, C, D, but in the key, it's lacking what a circled letter would be.
Sorry, the
Yep.
title's wrong.
Okay,
That was the wrong map.
okay.
It should say that it's the connectivity. I will change that. It's just the title on the top is not correct. I think it was enhanced connectivity, and then I combined two maps, and I forgot to update that.
But again, it's pointing out some areas.
I think with a different title, it is accurate though, because that's where it's explaining, potential connection opportunities,
Mhm.
and those succeed or fail based on, the specific merits of
Mhm.
what's being there. But it is a potential connection opportunity, I guess. So it might just be changing the title of the map.
I agree with Betsy that I think adding the title to the letter would help.
When you're looking at the map and you look at the legend, it doesn't say A is X, B is. So I think adding that into the legend would kind of help clarify what those specific connectivity areas are. And then having an easy reference to the body of the text where it says what those areas are. Just kind of makes it more clear.
Shanda Park to Young's Lane or Fish and Game Boat Launch, or something that sounds slightly more desirable than the wastewater plant. Like, I don't know, spice it up a little bit. Sorry, I guess that's a page 19 comment, but.
You're on 18?
Or we can talk about this after the fact, but just because I'm seeing it referenced again here, like when this committee first got established and Mike Hoffman was still a town employee, he'd
Yeah.
given me a stack of a lot of things
Yeah.
to read. One of them, I think, was a lot of the committee from 1996 that talked about the Riverwalk. Do you still know where that stuff is? I wouldn't mind reading it again now, 3+ years on. I think it might be a lot more useful to me.
Okay, yep. I'll up with you on that.
Thank you.
19? You're on nothing, page 20? Page 21? Page 22?
Where did
Yeah.
this photo come from?
It's pretty sweet.
The internet.
The internet? No, I was just
Yeah.
curious if it was somewhere around, but that, like, I think that's something we've talked about, like the Freedom Trail concept or whatever, but instead of just like planning more like, you know, T-posts in the ground and like signage and whatever, like, it's just a nice, like, subtle way to tell somebody something. I don't know. I like that photo a
I
lot.
couldn't find any more detail on it other than like it was on Pinterest, but I couldn't even find like a photo reference. It wasn't even on, it was like, I was Googling things.
Almost
and
looks
I
like a
found-
lamprey.
What?
Almost looks like a lamprey.
Yeah.
You know, almost.
I really like that. It's better than, yeah, shoving a bunch of new signs and like cluttering up
Mhm.
visual space. Like that's a nice way to get the point across without creating new things.
I also think too that as people are walking crosswalk, like, why is this crosswalk differently? Like, it might prompt them
Yeah.
to pursue asking a shop owner or somebody to say, you know, why are there fish here,
I
you know?
agree.
So,
Having done enough kindergarten field trips, yes. Great idea. Mom, what's this?
It prompts curiosity.
mhm.
It doesn't
Yeah, it would.
inexpensively.
Yes.
Especially if you had something like that. I know, you know, the bridge is widely used. If there was a place around that, you know, the pedestrian bridge up near Bryant Rock, that is where you have a herring day now, and that would be a real good connection to what the dam park now, one of the events that occurs there is in May, when the herring run is going for the Newmarket River Advisory Commission, that the park there. And you could, if you had some signage like that, and you could think of kind of things that would take that day and expand upon it in terms about how people think about that space and the herring runs that are currently, you know, pretty successful.
I always thought around there. I'm not sure if it would work really, but well, if you had a sculpture like it's almost tracks time, but seasonal, but shows the different types of fish that are in that time of year, and it just kind of, you know, automatically, mechanically goes to that point. So it's just another way of saying you're in spring, but these are the types of fish that migrated here, or whatever. So like a sea bass,
Right.
lamprey, whatever.
All migrate in the spring.
The spring, I know, all in spring, but
I think about the number of
or
people.
something else like migratory birds. Could not just be fish, but just
Yeah.
in general.
I think about the number of people I've taken down across that bridge and said, and that's our fish ladder, and they go, huh, what?
Yeah, right, exactly. So how can we show them that it's actually a fish ladder? A lot of people, like you said, we just walk over that bridge and now you notice it. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Is there a way that we can rename Dam Park to maybe like Fish Ladder Park?
Well, I
or-
think it's actually technically.
Is that what they call it?
Leophilian Park.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just during the charrette. It was just
Okay.
park. I think Leo, it's not even technically a park, but it's Leo name, Leophilian Park. I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
We'll put the real name.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You think it was officially, I know it was discussed doing, I didn't, I'm not.
I think town council named it, but they just named it. So if there was a question on who had, so really it's Fish and Game owns the fee, there's an easement on top of it. So the question was, who owns the easement? Is the town? Because the town did convey that easement at one point. It did. So I think based on our information right now, the Book Exchange property has the easement. So that's that right now.
Yeah. Well, and if that, because that was an impediment back when the dam, the whole design of that area for the dam rebuild was,
Mhm.
there was a lot of discussion around that.
Right.
But if, what we have successfully have is we have the herring day, so if you can, things that play off of that, even if you can't
Right.
carve that out as a always accessible park, you can try to expand.
Yeah, and I think Fish and Game would promote such. I think they want to see that. I think they do offer that. I know Lamprey Advisory Committee does
They
that.
participate in
Yeah.
that and they support that.
Yeah.
They do.
I think they, where they would hesitate is when, when people would have unfettered access to the area around the fish ladder and stuff like that.
Right. But there is an easement there saying there can be such.
Right.
Yeah,
So I
but
think
town
it's
just
a
doesn't-
discussion that we would.
Right. So,
You
moving
would
on.
definitely want to engage them in any.
Right, I think we're trying to enhance our open spaces. All right, number 23, accessibility, page 23. Nothing, page 24. Here, nothing, page 25.
This is where the other comment about the parking is in that first paragraph.
Yes, okay, yeah.
And I don't think it necessarily does in here, but there's no way to designate the parking in that small park next to Shanda. The only parking areas that really can be kind of designated for a purpose are the ones that are with the boat trailers. The other ones are not, there's no way to prevent people from parking there and walking into the downtown, I don't think, or,
Is
they're
there-
not even intended to be, is there?
Is there overnight parking permitted there?
That's what I'm
Okay.
trying
I don't
Does
think-
it-
I think there's a sign that says no parking between
Certain
this and this
hours.
time. I do have a question. So, are we obligated now to keep those keep that parking spaces there for boat trailers?
I know it was codified at some point in the past. I don't know if, at one point in the deliberations of this committee, there was somebody that reached out and talked with Fishing, I think it was Mike Hoffman actually, or it might have been, that talked to them, and said, they came back, and Fishing Game was said verbally, nothing was changed, but that they were willing, they really weren't in telling the town they had to do any specific thing with that area.
I believe that parking lot was originally paid for by Salmon Unlimited or Trout Unlimited, some organization like that.
Yeah, there's a sign there that says it, something.
Right, that was the original of it, so if there's any, but I'm not sure that grant it may have put limitations on the park. I don't know that anybody has said here that, well, they might have. Do you know, remember, Sam, what is the conversation about the, we have had conversations, and maybe they're documented somewhere, but that, I'd consider it an open question about it. I would prefer that the parking spots don't go away, but I don't know that it's, where they're etched in stone somewhere.
Could you even, it would be definitely worth looking to see what the town has on records, but also, do you hold off 4 parking spots in the wintertime when nobody's going to be launching boats on a frozen river?
They're not enforced then. I talked with the guy, when the town was the parking guy, I talked to him about that. He was giving warnings and putting warnings on people. I don't know if people got tickets, but I suppose if they ignored it, they might.
But if they're for
only
boats.
during the summer months.
Yeah, so, maybe better signage that says trailer parking from, March 15th until whenever, but if it's 4 parking spots for somebody who's going to be patronizing one of our restaurants or shops, they should be opened for that.
Right.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Something we had talked about,
Most of the rest of the spots, I think, are used by people working in town or not visiting restaurants.
we talked about like the rain garden there or something to.
Well, that was a recommendation during the living shorelines, was that some of it, I don't know that it was going to, definitely they were talking about looking towards improving the permeability of that area and trying to designate an area within that parking lot where you could direct water to go into the groundwater and not directly come down the street and into the bay.
So I think maybe one of the, goals could be, if we're doing our Shannon Park redesign, what does that look like? Who are, what stakeholders are we accommodating, as we go through that redesign process, so kind of looking high level here, that's more a finite goal.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because we don't know what we'll find out, what the town plans to do with some of the other land that's down below, and whether any easements of landowners in that area can be worked out. So at this point, it's more aspirational than.
Just a quick suggestion of that parking lot, there's been several cars that have backed into the river off that parking lot. So some kind of a barrier should be put next to the brook.
Just a quick question for clarification. Would this committee like to restrict the parking at Shannon Park to people that are using the waterfront area? Like, would you want a sign that said, please park in town or another parking lot unless you're visiting the river? Obviously, fewer words than that, but do you want something like that, or do you want the parking to remain open to anyone who wants to use it?
My opinion at this point is we don't want to restrict it, it's how, there's enforcement that would be required. And I think there's, like Barb says, a bigger discussion about Shannon Park itself.
Right.
Moody Brook and Inlet Brook there.
It's probably worth pointing out too, for people that are using it as a boat landing, some of those trailer spots during that season especially, because it's constrained a lot during the week because so many people can park for the food pantry and stuff like that, uses a lot of parking going on in that. So it's that the parking area is also where boats, our people turn around and put it in the boat, then, they have to use that area. So, yeah.
I don't know if it's the purview of this chapter or this committee to determine that, to answer your question. I think it's just having an honest assessment of there's a lot of spaces there, but they're not really accessible to the general public for use at Shannon Park or the downtown riverfront. They seem to largely be used by others for other reasons.
Just on the general comment, I thought we would have more in here about parking in general. I'm missing that.
At Shanda Park, or in general in the.
Just parking in general.
Yeah.
More downtown parking.
Yeah.
Transportation.
So that would be more transportation chapter. We'd be discussing parking, but we could make I think it's a good idea. Maybe we can put something in there, reference to it.
Under like accessibility, do you think?
That's
Like
right.
a sub-goal?
Yeah.
Would be under
Oh,
accessibility.
yes. Yeah. Yes, I think that's a good idea. Moving on to page 26. The only comment I have was when the sentence about town permanently locked the gate. I say in 2024 due to continual damage.
You would add that, or?
I just add, yeah, something that notes how it has repeatedly been damaged. It's not like a one-off and then the town closes off. Yeah. So we tried.
And it's been locked and unlocked and locked and unlocked a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
Now it's.
permanently locked, yeah.
Yeah, it's becoming unaffordable.
Mhm.
Nothing else. 27. Just go look at the goals. Move on to 28, affordability section. Page 29.
First, at the back of the first paragraph where we're kind of talking about the fledgling discussion of transferring stewardship of Shanda Park. I think I just want something maybe a little more active, like, maybe something like, I don't know, the exact terms of a transfer and stewardship aren't known. The town is actively exploring this concept. Like something that says like it's a little bit more into an active item that's being explored.
Maybe towns actively exploring inappropriate steward.
Yeah.
Something to that effect, yeah.
Or even a modification to the sentence that is there that just makes it sound a little bit more like, we know this might be a thing, to like, this is kind of a thing and we're doing something about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was at the end of the first paragraph.
Yeah. The last sentence into that first paragraph.
You would still want a sub-recommendation on that item though, too?
Yeah, maybe that's just a gap, is having not seen the sub-goals list. Maybe if that is listed, maybe it's kind of already
We could
covered.
say like continue to explore.
And just thanks for your affordability goal number 3. That's something that gonna start sounding like a broken record now.
Page 30.
Bottom of the 3rd paragraph, where it talks about the outfall of Moonlight Brook, just where it talks about, pet waste, human contamination. I would say maybe in excess of monitoring standards, because I think that just drives home, like, not just that it's a detection, but
Right. In excess.
detection in excess.
While we're on this page, I think
part? You said New Village. Is that the Beach Street area? Is that called New Village? Does that neighborhood have a name?
Yeah, where the convenience store is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go across the street, that's New Village.
It is New Village,
Yeah.
okay. I thought that's what you said, but I hadn't heard that. Thanks.
Page 31.
Although Beach Street does not drain the Newmarket River, for point of clarification there. New
That
Village
goes to Piscataqua.
Goes to Piscataqua,
Yeah.
and not Newmarket. Oh, really? Yeah. Thank you.
Maybe just a little bit more sell to the living shoreline thing, I guess this is bottom of paragraph 3. This says, measure may also increase the space available for a living shoreline, which should help stabilize the shoreline, like increase overall resiliency of the downtown area, create an ecological feature. Like, I think it does more than just stabilize the shoreline.
I think that's a good point.
Page 32. Page 33. And page 34.
Resiliency goal 2 says improve the water quality of Moonlight Brook and the Lamprey River. Is our intent more improve the water quality of Moonlight Brook as it outfalls to the Lamprey River? Just because the Lamprey River one, I think, is a much broader goal that kind of exceeds again what we're trying to do.
I mean, I think it's a bigger problem outside of downtown riverfront.
Yeah.
So, especially the sub-watershed of the Moonlight Brook, you know, it's not just that point. So maybe it's more, maybe improve water quality efforts. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I guess one thing I will do is check with the water resources chapter people and see what they're putting in their chapter. I had put actually quite a few broader sub-recommendations related to water quality in general in this section. So,
Because the wording's somewhat around, like, isn't it like the whole MS4, you know, you have goals for non-point pollution and how much effluent gets to it. So some of the things that might actually be done around that, what we were talking about, you know, where you get water penetrating and all of that, is designed to reduce the nitrogen offload from the downtown area into the lamprey. You know, it's a whole bunch of towns are all trying to reduce their contributions to non-point pollution, and this is a key part of what Newmarket's doing at the same time.
So, yeah, I kind of agree. I think you can keep it.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I would retract that. I wasn't really thinking of that.
Yeah.
No, that's-
Yeah, because the end goal will be a better quality at the confluence, water quality at the confluence, which. All right, and then the rest just appendices from there. So, not sure if you want to jump into that or not, but. So I guess next step is I will send out goals, sub-goals. Apologize for that. Not doing that. And what I would like you all is just send your comments to me and Liz, and just so we can just facilitate, further drafts of this. And then with the goal at the next meeting to kind of get a finalized draft, and also some goals and recommendations as well, to pass up the food chain. So, any questions before we move on?
But just say thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
work.
Really?
Thanks, Liz.
It looks great.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a bridge anymore.
Yeah, there's a bridge
Sure
there.
It's mentioned there.
It is mentioned. Yeah. Unfortunately,
Connectivity there.
Well, connectivity options goal. All right, well, thank you all for taking.
Thank you.
thank you.
When is the next meeting?
Yeah, great.
Next item on the agenda.
One quick item. Did get an email, like 2 weeks ago that I can forward to folks. I'm trying to read it now because I forgot about it actually until today. So the Newmarket Main Street Corporation reached out to us. I think that's just kind of a group of business owners.
It's different than NBA.
I believe so. That they said Newmarket Main Street Corporation, but I think it may be some of the same people.
Was that the group that was, when they put together to do the whole redevelopment of the mills, they had a sort of a quasi-governmental agency of citizens that...
Well, usually Main Street Corporation is a group that worked to like put your utilities underground and improve any sort of parking, and which Newmarket participated in.
Yeah, that was what happened
So
leading
whether-
up to the whole redo of the downtown.
Exactly.
And I think that was the group that was, and they're still alive, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I can find out more. Mike was CC'd on the email that originally just went to me and Steve Fournier. But that's where they were talking about potentially having a plaque discussing shipbuilding that ultimately ended up at Shanda. Just said that I also copied Ellen on my response too, just because of the conservation thing. But they said, I am not opposed. I like the idea. We've been talking about historical, signage and more educational opportunities there. There's a larger ongoing conversation here. So just kind of said, thanks for the input, appreciate it.
Going back to a
Long-term
comment
goal,
Bart had along those lines, that when you're talking about signage down there, the whole, geez, it just popped out of my head, but where the informational sign is, the little
Kiosk.
The
kiosk, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So some things could be a more permanent installation on a kiosk, because then you can figure out what kind of signage would need to be sort of sitting over the water so you can look through it.
Yeah, you don't want like 20 signs lined
you
up in
don't
front
want
of the scenic vista.
So this kind of came up in another committee meeting, like, trying to find a spot where it's like one landing place. So we're trying to like figure out how do you communicate to people visiting Newmarket, where to go, what's happening in Newmarket, almost like a landing page. Trying to find that spot where that is. Where could that go and what information be on there. So you're not the only one thinking about that. I know this is probably specific to Shanda Park, but what if we had something like everyone goes to look what's happening in town, where you can go, what businesses, so it's kind of a nice little welcoming page. Yeah.
Our next meeting is currently scheduled for the 10th, right?
Yeah, so let's make that a collective decision. I'm likely out of state on the 10th. It doesn't mean that
So am I.
can't keep that date. The 17th I think is too late because it's past the March 12th subcommittee date, which they're looking to kind of have some assent by. So I would vote for the 3rd or the 10th. I don't really care which
But you're not here on the
One,
10th.
I'm just not
And
physically
you're not
here.
here.
And I'm not
10th.
here on the 10th.
And-
I'm not
Dark-
here on the 3rd, but I am here on the 10th.
Okay.
And I'm not here on either the 3rd or the 10th.
Okay.
Is February too soon, 24th?
And I'm not here on the 24th.
Okay.
I'd say that you are more critical to this
Yes.
group than,
Maybe we hold the 10th then, and that would give more time to review the sub-goals thing and any other edits that get made to this. And then,
Keep it on the 10th, you're saying?
yeah, keep it on 10th and just send any input to us if there's any comments or changes that we want to implement.
The 10th is the day you couldn't be here, though. Is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah, wait. Oh, my God. All right, so the 3rd.
That's fine.
What day is it? Yeah,
Third one.
March.
March 3rd, Monday, March 3rd. Let me make sure abundantly clearly that is accurate.
that it's open, there's nothing scheduled right now.
Okay,
The 3rd.
yes, okay, so it would be March 3rd.
Are these on Channel 13 or whatever, are they viewable online at the time?
Yes. So when they're recorded, you go to the town webpage or Facebook Live, you see it right there. Right
Okay.
inside Channel 13, if you're in town. And then immediately thereafter, it's streamable. Down, like you go to the streaming page the town has,
Okay.
like YouTube.
Because I could stream it that day, but
Right.
it wouldn't give you if I had feedback, it wouldn't be
Right. So if you had your comments prior to, we'd have that at the
Yeah,
meeting.
okay.
And then they'd be incorporated. And if you're really ambitious, we can zoom you in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the 3rd also allows for just another week of potential tweaks before the ultimate draft gets submitted to the subcommittee on the 12th too, so. Okay, so if everyone is fine with that, then I would say the 3rd, 4 o'clock on Monday, March 3rd would be the next meeting. Okay.
Great.
Any other final thoughts? Motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.